Hello, beautiful human. I'm RidersDX, and welcome to Riders Talk, which is basically a segment on this channel where I just, talk. I promise it's more exciting than that. What we're going to talk about is actually something I'm really looking forward to, which is Sonic X Shadow Generations, which is a very cursed name. I'm very almost impressed that Sega decided to go with that name. But if you really do live under a rock that's so solid and so heavy that's literally crushing your brain every waking moment, then Sonic and Shadow Generations is a half remaster of Sonic Generations and half brand new campaign adventure starring Shadow the Hedgehog. And this is basically a game where Shadow's gonna go do a bunch of his old previous levels and battle his old familiar foes in a similar way that Sonic did with his classic self in Sonic Generations. And this is a storyline that's apparently running side by side with the original game. And so not only will you have the original game remastered, which I mean it's a great game, so it's fine, but doesn't look like anything too special right now. But you also have this Shadow focused adventure that's completely brand new content that's coming towards us in this package as well. And it's kind of what I would describe as a similar-ish package to Bowser's Fury, although we don't really know how big this part of the game is going to be. For all we know, it could just be a couple hours in terms of campaign size, which would not really surprise me, to be honest, because Generations itself was not a very long game. So we kind of have to level our expectations, but nonetheless, I am very excited about this. Being like a very big Shadow connoisseur, as you might say, I definitely appreciate the taste of Shadow and his backstory and all his nuances and blah blah blah. I actually just made this whole ass video about Shadow's entire history, and you should definitely check that out. But in the meantime, in today's video, we're gonna go over 10 delusional desires I have for Sonic and Shadow Generations, because you can want many things in this world, but you can't always get what you want. So I'm gonna just go crazy. I'm gonna just go ahead and just give all the things that I would love to see in this game, but I don't expect a damn this list to make it. So I don't know, maybe we'll get lucky and maybe we'll see one or two of these things, but you let me know how realistic my list is. But I'm telling you right now, it's not realistic at all. But we'll go ahead and get started. And number one, this actually isn't that delusional. I want Rouge and Omega to be somewhat of a big part of the story. Kind of the same way that Tails was in the original Sonic Generations, unless the story is as simple as Sonic Generations, which in that case, I could care less. But judging from what we've seen so far, it definitely seems like there's more going on in this part of the game compared to Sonic Generations, just for the fact that people like Black Doom are coming back in here. It definitely seems like there's going to be a strong story narrative aspect to this game. And I think Rouge and Omega just need to come along for the ride. They are Shadow's squad, they're Shadow's best friends, and any excuse to reunite Team Dark is a great occasion to me. It's supposed to be a celebration of Shadow's history, and Rouge and Omega are a huge part of Shadow's history, so let's go. And number two, coming after this is a very delusional desire that I'm very sure is not going to happen. But my desire for the second point is that there be no 2D sections in this game. It is one thing that I have qualms with when it comes to the boost formula in Sonic Generations and Sonic Colors and Sonic Unleashed for that matter, is that there are more 2D sections than I would like. And I believe that there's a ton of 2D sections in these boost games because from a design perspective, they're just a lot easier to make than full-on 3D sections. And also, Sonic has always been a bitch to control in a 3D environment when it comes to a boost game. So it does not surprise me at all that there's a bunch of 2D sections in all these games, especially Sonic Colors for that matter. But Sonic Frontiers has showed us that Sega and Sonic Team do know how to make Sonic control in a 3D environment with a similar-ish formula. And so I'd love to see Shadow have exclusively 3D gameplay here, because Shadow has never been truly tied to the 2D gameplay side of Sonic. Shadow has always been representative of the 3D side, and so if we're gonna stay accurate to the manuscript here, then Shadow has 3D gameplay, so he should have strictly 3D gameplay. With that being said though, it does seem like this is a formula that's gonna be very similar to the Generations engine, and so I would not be surprised if there's a lot of 2D gameplay in here. But my desire is to have a fully 3D adventure. But it's just a desire, so desires don't always come true. And number three, so these next 3 points are actually going to be level requests for this game. And so there's a few levels that we have seen in this game so far, which are Radical Highway, Final Chase, Westopolis, and I believe that's it. But correct me if I missed something, because some of those levels are a little bit hard to make out, I'm not going to lie. But seeing as we haven't seen anything from Heroes yet, I would love to see Grand Metropolis be put into this campaign. Now, in terms of Heroes, there's not really a level that's like strongly associated to Shadow because, well, he plays through all the same levels as everyone else. But Heroes is also a very important game to Shadow's history, whether you like it or not, because it was a game that brought Shadow back. So it had a very important event in Shadow's history happen. Even if it's the most botched part of his history, it is still a part of his history. And plus, I'm a Heroes nut. So any excuse to bring another Heroes level into this game is a great excuse for me. And I think out of all the levels, Grand Metropolis just has the most potential in terms of like a really great level. I mean, I can just see it in the Generations like formula and just be a really like effective and visually stunning level. And so I hope we see that come back in this game. But if not, then I hope for like any Heroes level, honestly. At number 4, I would love to see the Black Comet from Shadow the Hedgehog make an appearance here. Now, the Black Comet in the original Shadow the Hedgehog was actually not one of my favorite levels, though to be honest, I didn't have a lot of favorite levels in Shadow the Hedgehog in all honesty. I think that Black Comet though especially looked a little bland and just like boring in the original game. So I actually think this would be a really cool opportunity for them to take that level and just make it so much better and more extravagant and so much more interesting in this game, because you see the way that like Generations took like, I don't know, Crisis City for instance, and just like pumped it up to infinity. It was already such an epic level in the original 06, but then in Generations it's just even better, like even crazier, even greater, and I can totally see something similar happening to the Black Comet in Shadow the Hedgehog if it came into this game. Plus, Black Doom is a part of this game, and so I feel like it's only fitting that you have like its home base incorporated into this game somehow. We already have Westopolis, so like who knows if we'll see another Shadow the Hedgehog level, but considering this is a Shadow focused campaign and that is his own original game, if there was one game that was going to have multiple levels, it would be Shadow the Hedgehog. So that's all I'm going to say on that. And number 5, I would actually like to see a level from Sonic 06 come back over here, and that is Kingdom Valley. And it's both reasons that are related to Shadow and also reasons not related to Shadow. So I think Crisis City was an amazing choice for Sonic Generations. It looked so great in Generations and it was a really great way to pay respect to 06, even though it really is one of the series like lowest moments. And I just think that like Crisis City was done so well in Generations and really pumped up to the next level. That being said though, it's definitely not like the iconic location of Sonic 06. I would say that iconic location is Kingdom Valley, and so I would love to see Kingdom Valley get put in as part of Shadow's campaign. It's also a really important location for Shadow because that's where Shadow was introduced to Mephiles, the main antagonist of Sonic 06. It's such a beautiful level. I would love to see it recreated in Generations, and I think that it's also a very important location to Shadow in particular. So yeah, checks all the boxes, honestly. At number 6, this could happen. I very hopeful about this part, but who knows? I feel like it's maybe not a huge focus for this game, but I would love to see it. But a multiplayer mode modeled after the Adventure 2 multiplayer mode would be amazing here. You can play as both Sonic and Shadow, obviously, and if you want to get even more nostalgia, you can throw in Amy and Metal Sonic in there, and you know, have all the characters that you could play in Sonic Adventure 2 be playable in this mode over here, and you know, just let the characters race through these like edited versions of these levels, both Generations levels and also levels part of the Shadow campaign. And I don't know, man, that multiplayer mode in Sonic Adventure 2 is one of my favorite memories growing up. I loved playing that with my brother, and this being a game looking back on Shadow's iconic career, I think that'd just be a perfect way to tap even more into nostalgia of Shadow here, and I think it'd be a lot of fun. So I don't know, something to think about. Number 7, you know what? I think this is the most delusional part of this video, but I don't even like really want this in all honesty. I just think it'd be the funniest thing in the world and also would be like a great growing point for Sega in particular. And that is the fact that I would love for them to give Shadow the option to use guns in the Shadow the Hedgehog levels. Now, hear me out on this. I think the guns should be completely optional. They should not be required to finish the level and such. But at the same time, as much as we love to like rag on it, as much as we love to like make fun of it and just say how horrible of a decision it was, which it was, don't get me wrong, it is still a very big part of Shadow's history. And I think something I really appreciate about Generations was the fact that it tried to celebrate all of Sonic's history, so both the good and the bad. So it was great to see games like Sonic 06 for instance get represented there, and so I really hope that like this Shadow campaign kind of takes some of the steps and celebrates both the good and the bad of Shadow. And you know what, Shadow the Hedgehog, it may have been bad, but it was a major part of Shadow's career. So I think having the option to at least play guns would definitely create quite a stir on social media, and if it's optional, then it's just a fun little gag, you know? So I think it'd just be a really fun way to kind of like stir up some like press and media for this game. and it'd just be really funny for me personally. Number 8, so the fact that we're going back into Xiao's history and reliving certain parts of his career, one thing I would love to see get expanded upon here is actually that fateful day that Shadow and Maria tried to escape the Ark and Maria passed away, because that is such an iconic scene that has been recreated over and over again in multiple Sonic games, both Sonic Adventure 2 and Shadow the Hedgehog, but we've never actually seen a full playthrough of what happened that day. We've seen many bits and pieces of it, but never like a full on like retelling of what happened. And you know, it's just like, what did Maria say to Shadow that day? What did Shadow say to Maria that day? What were they doing in the morning? You know, it's just like things like that. They have an opportunity here to fill in gaps in Shadow's story that they should have done in Shadow the Hedgehog, honestly. But nonetheless, it's a brand new game. They have a brand new opportunity, and I think it would just be such a cool opportunity to fill in the blanks in a lot of Shadow's history. And this is by far one of the most important moments in Shadow's life. And it would just be really cool to see how they would approach that in the year 2024. So fingers crossed, but if that's not gonna happen, then I'm sure it'll get touched upon pretty majorly in the third Sonic movie. So I guess I'll get it either way. At number 9, so this is a very strange idea, and like reading it right now, I don't even know if I truly want this, but I think it would be a very interesting idea nonetheless. With all this time traveling shenanigans going on, I feel like an idea that hasn't been like explored a lot is beating your previous selves in this whole time warp like extravaganza that we're doing with Sonic Generations. And so it didn't happen with Sonic. Well, actually it did with like classic Sonic and such, but with Shadow, there's not really a classic component of Shadow. Shadow's always kind of been like a very like singular character. But I think what would be really interesting is having Shadow meet himself from like Adventure 2 in particular, because obviously the Shadow in Adventure 2 is way different compared to the Shadow now. And wouldn't it be really cool if Shadow had to like fight himself in Adventure 2? So what if you have that like green forest area where Shadow encounters Sonic and you have his first battle with Sonic, but instead of battling Sonic, you're battling Shadow, his past self. And I just think the conversations you would have between like modern Shadow and the Shadow Adventure 2 would be super interesting. And I don't know, I think that'd just be a really like interesting exercise that if Ian Flynn's working on this game, which I feel like he probably is, I feel like that'd be a really cool thing to see his approach to. So I don't know, just spitballing ideas at this point. And number 10, this is extremely delusional as well, and I'm sure a lot of people will think that this is a stupid idea, but since we're getting Black Doom in this game, I really want to see Mephiles in this game too. Like, I know that he's technically been wiped from history and blah blah blah, but if you watch like my previous Shadow video where I talked about his entire history, I actually had a lot of nice things to say about Mephiles in terms of like his role in Shadow's development. Because just to quickly summarize here, I think Mephiles is such a great tool that the writers use to show how much Shadow has grown as a character. Because in Sonic 06, Mephiles would try to tempt Shadow to kind of come to the dark side by showing him how humanity will turn on him and things like that. You know, things that Shadow would have like taken at face value in the past. But Shadow in 06 like denies all that, like outright refuses to cooperate with Mephiles because he's grown and he has very solid values that he works with in Sonic 06. And I just think that like I enjoyed Shadow's characterization in Sonic 06 so much because it really showed the growth in his character and just like a potential future as to how Shadow would continue to be in the franchise. And so I just think even though Mephiles technically doesn't exist, so technically Shadow doesn't know Mephiles, I think it'd be really cool to kind of see them explore that nonetheless, especially since we're playing with like ripped time rips and all that. It's very much easily explained that you could have Mephiles like pop in somehow, you know, from like an altered dimension or something like that. I don't know. However they want to explain it, I just really would love to see that reunion. I think that would just be such a fascinating thing to watch. So that is my 10 delusional desires I want to see in Sonic and Shadow Generations. Let me know what your delusional desire is in the comment section below. But yeah, there's still so much we don't know about this game yet, so I'm really just spitballing a lot of ideas at this point. Hopefully we get more information, but since the game's not coming out till autumn, we might not get anything for a while. I'm actually kind of mad that they announced it this early because I'm like, now I gotta wait till like autumn to like learn anything. And so, man, it's just going to be torture. I also asked you all what you all thought about Sonic and Shadow Generations, and so I got a few comments here, so let me go ahead and redo what some of y'all are saying. If you want to be a part of videos like this in the future, then feel free to subscribe to me and turn on your notifications, so whenever I post a community post, for instance, you'll see it, and then you can leave your thoughts. KJ Broadway says, it's really cool that they're doing a Bowser's Fury remaster of Generations. I believe this would set the standard for future remasters. You know, like, yeah, totally, because it's like, we have so many remasters now. It's absolutely insane, and so many of them are just like the base game and that's it. Like no additions, no nothing, just like prettier graphics and that's it. But I feel like Bowser's Fury and like this game in particular are really good examples of how you can make a remaster exciting, but also like create these like smaller scale adventures that wouldn't be enough to be sold as standalone products, but because you're coupling them with a remastered product, now you can kind of do these like more experimental like titles that don't have to be like these huge games like Frontiers in particular. I think it's a win-win situation either way. Like you get like a remastered game that a lot of people were asking for, but you also get like a brand new little adventure, allows Sega and Sonic to kind of like stretch the muscles and like without having to dedicate to like a full-on game. So I'm excited about this. I hope we see more things like this in the future. Ultimate G says, Shadow the Hedgehog on PS2 was awesome to play as a kid. I really like the darker tone of story. Can't wait to play Shadow again on the PS5. So I've not made a secret that I'm not a fan of Shadow the Hedgehog, but I feel like that's the majority opinion. So if you like Shadow the Hedgehog as a kid, then good for you. I do think that the darker tone had a lot of potential. I think for that game it was the right tone to go for. It's just that I wish that it was actually written and explained in a better way. But hopefully they can kind of do some things with this game that really like makes up for that, because it definitely seems to have a similar dark tone to it. So I would love to see them kind of like tackle like more parts of Shadow's history. Dom says, like the soundtrack to the game. Oh yeah, the soundtrack is going to be insane for Sonic and Shadow Generations. Like I can't wait to see so many different tracks get remixed. Obviously we'll see tracks like Radical Highway, Final Chase, Westopolis get remixed over here, and I just hope we see more and more levels, because if we can get more and more remixes, that would just be amazing. I just hope that they're not the obnoxious like dubstep like heavy tones of like Sonic Forces and the Frontiers like speed levels. I just don't like that sound. It's just a little obnoxious to me. I can totally see them going that direction, but if they do go in that direction, I just hope they tone it down a little bit, or just kind of like have some more variety. SB14 and more says, nothing much, except that I'm glad that we're getting Generations on modern consoles. Plus, we don't know much about the Shadow story. All we know is that it will involve Black Doom and it will have the Bio-Lizard boss fight. Yeah, you know, I think we're forgetting a lot of time that there is a Generations remaster here. And you know, Generations is still a game that holds up pretty well today. So in my eyes, there doesn't need to be a lot done to Generations to make it better for a remaster. I think it's a pretty solid game on its own, and you can still play it now and it's like a totally fine game. So I'm glad that they coupled it with the Shadow campaign, because otherwise I feel like the Generations remaster would have been a very hard sell for me personally. Thomas is ready says it'll probably be a game. I don't know about that. David Dumbed Down says this post was made at 1942. This is very useful information. Thank you so much. Zolan Wall says it's a good Sonic game. I have Sonic Generations on the 3DS. Oh, the 3DS version is actually really good. You know, I think I played it for a video a long time ago. I didn't think it was as good as like Sonic Colors DS for instance, but it was still a pretty solid adventure, and it was fun to see like other levels get incorporated there. Like I think there was a level from like Sonic Rush that was in there. Was it like Hidden Palace, I'm pretty sure. And I'm just like, wow, I cannot believe Sonic Rush got some representation here. So maybe we'll get some references to some of the 2D games actually that Shadow was in. What portable games was Shadow in? He was in Sonic Battle. I hope we see something from Sonic Battle in particular. That'd be really cool. He was in Sonic Rivals too, but we don't really need to see anything from that. I think that's it. Let me know if I'm missing anything. Oh, I don't know how to say this name, I'm sorry. So I'm just gonna refer to your pick, which is VA. I really like the idea of a side story outside of main game. Shadow's still a badass using his guns and dark powers. However, I have already beaten the original game to Xbox retro compatibility, so I'm definitely not buying this for a remaster. Also, the side story may have a short duration. On a deal, maybe. Yeah, that's kind of like my main concern. I'm like not sure how long this campaign is going to be. I think because of the fact that it's coupled with Generations, we should not expect a very long game. Like it'll probably be like a few hours to complete the campaign at least. Hopefully there's some like extra content to make you want to come back and like A rank the levels for instance. But I mean, it's gonna be intriguing nonetheless, so I'm very curious to see how this goes. We've never seen Sega and Sonic Team do something like this before, so I'm just hoping for the best. And yeah, I guess we'll just have to see. And then Glitch on Twitter just wanted to say that they were excited, which yes, as you can tell, I'm pretty excited about this game too. I just think that Shadow is just such a rich character in Sonic's history, and I'm so glad to see him finally get some respect again, because it's been too long. It's been too long since Shadow's been in the spotlight, and I'm just so glad to see Shadow like finally come out here and just kind of like be the star that he was always meant to be, I guess you could say. So I'm excited. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And just, yeah, hopefully we get some more news soon. But alright, y'all. Thank you so much. This is Riders, riding out.